Hello, my name is Ivy. I am the occultist, and today I am joined by a special guest, Cricketsong. You all have probably heard me talk about her before. We've done a couple collaborations together. She is an author. She's an extremely educated woman. I love her energy so much. Cricketsong, would you like to say hello to everybody?
Hey everyone, I love Ivy's energy so much too.
Oh, thank you so much. So today we're going to be, it's going to be an unscripted video. We're going to discuss whether we personally believe that everyone has the ability to be a witch. And I have some very, very strong opinions on the matter. I have no idea what Cricketsong's opinions are, so we may get a little controversial. I'm not really sure, but I really just wanted to talk about this because I've heard a couple people buzzing around this topic, and I really wanted to do a deep dive into it. So before I guess, give my controversial opinions, Cricketsong, would you like to discuss what you personally believe?
So I think it's actually, for me, it's not whether everybody has the ability, but whether or not everybody should pursue that. I think if we're just breaking it down to human beings, I think every human being has the capability of psychic abilities, which I feel like a lot of witches, if not every witch, has some sort of psychic ability. So I think the potential to like learn the craft, even if you don't have innate talent for it, you can like learn the mechanics of it, right? But I think not everyone has the calling to be a witch. And then I don't think everyone is meant to be a witch. And usually I describe it as like, I can go to school and learn to be a carpenter. I can learn the technique of being a carpenter. I can learn the skill. But if I were to make like a bookshelf and then someone who is called or has a natural talent or a natural aptitude to be a carpenter, you could look at our two bookshelves and you could tell the difference. Mine might function, but the carpenters would be like artistic. There would be something about his or her bookshelf that you could tell, wow, that's a beautiful bookshelf. And I feel like that's the same with witchcraft.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. So, I mean, my perspective is very similar in that I believe everybody has the ability to become a witch if they choose to. And I want to kind of put a disclaimer here that I'm talking about North American and European customs, cultural, whatever, because I recently had a conversation with my friend Sacha, who is a bruja. And in her culture, people actually don't have a choice whether they are a witch or not. It's not an elective choice that you make like here in the United States and other European countries. We can choose to be a witch if we want to be a witch, but in like Central America, South America, there are some cultures where you don't choose. You do have to have a specific gift in order to be considered. So obviously I'm talking about this from my American perspective, but I do believe that everybody has the ability to be a witch. I think that everybody is psychic. I do think that some people are naturally inclined towards being a witch or towards being psychic, and they might have an easier time with it. They might be able to develop their abilities a lot easier. Some people, no matter how hard they try, they're just not able to develop certain psychic abilities. And then that typically means that they have some other untapped potential that they need to work towards instead. But I think the question more is, yes, everybody can be a witch, but I don't know if everybody can be an extremely successful witch. I think that you can work really hard at it over time and eventually get better, but there are some people that are always just going to have that innate ability and just be really good at it. It's like, with any sport, I am not an athletic person. Okay. Like no, I'm just not an athlete, and I could train and probably get pretty decent at any sport that I set my mind to if I put enough dedication towards it. But those proteges or whatever that come in to a specific sport, they are always going to be better than me. We always have our own skill sets. So I hate the gatekeeping of people saying, you can't be a witch because of blah, 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 because I do believe that everybody can be a witch, but also the successful rate, I guess, or how successful you can be is really where it's debatable for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if the individual will really know if they're being honest with themselves, if they really want to be a witch, what are their motives of doing witchcraft, And if we're honest with ourselves, we know what we're good at and what we're not good at. I'm never going to be an athlete, you know. I
Me
never
neither.
trained to be an athlete. I'm never going to be a cellist or anything, because for me, I really look at witchcraft as the art and science of something, you know, Crowley, the art and science of manipulating energies. I feel like that's what we're talking about here. It's not just a science, it's an art. And I think all art involves the spirit of the individual, the effort, and just that calling. I really consider it a calling. Witchcraft is a calling. But I do too get the idea that, you know, there are definitely some types of witchcrafts that you're born into, that, you know, it's hereditary, it's something that you have to be invited to, or it's something that you have to be chosen to be a part of, and I respect that. And I understand that too. But yeah, an American view, you can study, you definitely can go study and study, but if you're honest with yourself, there may be obstacles within you. I mean, if you were born in a Christian home like I was, for a long time, witchcraft is of the devil and something you don't want to do, and it's against God. I mean, you have to overcome those things in order to be successful at it, because you have all these shadows that you need to work through first.
Yes. Oh, I so agree with that. And you just brought up a good point about, it made me think of creativity and how you really have to be a creative person to, or even I would say a kind of an emotional person too, because when I'm channeling or when I'm doing whatever type of working, I really am putting my emotion into it. I'm putting my creativity in it. I'm getting, thinking out of the box. And I think that is a huge component to being a successful spellcaster. And it's not, you're just reading from a book and citing a couple words and giving it dead energy. There has to be something behind it that's really propelling that forward. So yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
that.
I think even with that definition of magic, you're definitely feeding your intention with that energy, with that emotion. I mean, we're utilizing all aspect of the self when we're casting our spells. I mean, and if you're an individual who has some emotional blockage that you just can't tap into your emotions, or you're afraid of tapping into that, or you're afraid of going against whatever, I don't see, and I could be wrong, but again, it's our opinions. I don't see how your spellcraft is going to be successful, is going to manifest for you, because in my belief, magic takes the path of least resistance. So you want to clear out all that resistance within you in order to be able to manifest whatever your working is.
Oh my gosh, 1000%. I agree with that. And there is like a level of introspection that you have to be able to do on yourself as well. You have to know yourself, and not everybody is self-aware to that level. Not everybody knows what their true will is or what they really want. And so when you're casting spells, if your will isn't behind that, in my personal opinion, it's probably not going to be as successful. It's not in alignment with your frequency or your will or whatever. So
Exactly.
yeah, I definitely think you have to know thyself, or however that saying
Right.
goes. Yeah.
And yeah, I do understand that someone may watch this and think we're gatekeeping. But I don't think it's that. I think, again, I think it's up to the individual to really look at themselves and determine if they really are called or meant to be a witch, or if it's just something maybe they're interested in. And like, you can be a magician and not necessarily be a witch. I mean, maybe you're not meant to be a witch, but you're meant to do some other form of magic, because
Yeah.
that could incorporate a whole bunch of different ways to get your will manifested.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that was one thing that I wanted to talk about as well, is that I hope that, no one watching this is thinking that we're gatekeepers, because I do fundamentally believe that everybody has this ability to be a witch or to be psychic, et cetera, et cetera. But if you find that you're struggling with a particular psychic ability or spell casting, et cetera, try a different method, because you might find that you actually are gifted. It's just in an area that you haven't discovered yet. And I personally believe that everybody has some sort of gift they really, really need to, develop. And obviously, like we said, some people are just naturally going to be better at certain techniques than other people, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop practicing witchcraft. It just means that you need to find a technique that, resonates with you a little bit better. So yeah, I hope that nobody thinks we're gatekeeping.
Well, I guess that even brings me to think, what are we defining a witch as?
Mm.
because we're saying not everybody should be, is meant to be, whatever, a witch. What are we really considering? Maybe we
Hmm.
should have started with that.
We probably should have, but this is unscripted. So, yeah, I think just off the top of my head, and this is not the same as if I were to sit down and write about it, I would define a witch as somebody who is able to manipulate the energies around them to gain a desired effect. And I mean, you could, anybody who does Reiki, I guess in that sense, I would consider a witch. And anybody who does any sort of energy work, I would consider a witch. That's my personal definition. That's definitely not the only definition. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I don't know. I think, again, my personal definition, we keep throwing these disclaimers in there, right? I think witchcraft is different. And I've met some Reiki practitioners who would not consider themselves witches, right? I think witchcraft has more, I mean, it's definitely doing magic, which is the manipulation of energies. I think witchcraft also incorporates work with the spirit realm,
Mm.
depending on what you define as that. Although Reiki practitioners usually work with angels, so that's part of the spiritual realm. But then I feel like there is working with nature in some aspect that could go hand in hand with the spirit realm, nature spirits, but also just with the energy and the spirits of the land. I feel like witchcraft generally does that, because I feel like that's different than ceremonial magic, where there is the work with spirits, but it's not necessarily working with the land, although I guess it could be. I'm not really sure, but I feel like there's more than just magic,
Oh, yeah.
because there's so many different magical practitioners, right?
Yes.
But I think witchcraft definitely works with spirits in some sense.
Mm. I really like that definition, works with spirits. I'm trying to think of a path of witchcraft that does not work with the spiritual realm in a sense.
I don't think there is.
I don't know because I mean, I'm an atheist agnostic person, as most people know. And even though I don't believe necessarily in gods and goddesses, I still work with the spiritual realm heavily.
Oh, I know.
So I don't know. So maybe the manipulation of energy in the terms of magic and working with the spiritual realm, having a relationship with nature. I mean, I'm sure there's so many different components that
Right.
we could define a witch as.
Because I mean, the ceremonial magicians I have known generally don't focus on the folk magic aspect. They're looking for more ascension or enlightenment or knowledge, more of the higher realms. So I think maybe witchcraft in general looks for manifestation of physical changes, where the magician may be looking for more of reaching higher realms of enlightenment, personal enlightenment, because even satanic witches are focused on the physical, on self as God.
I think I would have to sit down and really write a whole book on how I would define a witch because there's so many different ways that you could define witch. And I mean, you can't, yeah, that's tough. Cause even as I mean, there was a period of my life where I was a ceremonial magician, but I still kind of considered myself a witch, even though I wasn't doing a lot of low magic, a lot of
Okay.
manifestation in the physical realm. But I think that's because of the relationship that I had with the spiritual realm while
Right.
I was doing that ceremonial magic. And so for me, I still felt like a witch. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think that we probably should have defined witch before we started this video so we can have a
It's
clear.
unscripted. It's unscripted. And
Yeah.
so, like, I wasn't thinking of it because I figured we had sort of had the same definition, but someone watching this may not be
Right.
defining it in the same way. And I do think it depends on the individual defining themselves. I'm never going to tell someone you can't call yourself XYZ,
Yeah.
because I don't know really what you're doing. I don't know what you're practicing. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know your perspective. I'm going to take your word for what you're telling me. But
Yes.
I have looked at, internally looked at someone's practice who is saying that they're a witch and they're actually not even performing magic. I kind of have to scratch my head and say, okay, your definition of witch and my definition of witch is totally different. So
Definitely. I think that's where a lot of people get caught up too with the whole gatekeeping situation, because they're like, well, you're not a witch because you don't XYZ. And obviously, our definitions of witch are going to be very different. And I did want to kind of put a note out for the whole gatekeeping situation. It is really frustrating, especially when I hear people telling beginner witches, you can only be a witch if you do this, if you do XYZ. And that's so frustrating to me because we all have different talents, obviously. Like, I love working in the astral realm. I love doing lucid dreaming, astral projections, shamanic journeying. I love doing lots of visualizations. Not everybody likes that. I feel like that's kind of where my personal gift is working, in that realm. But there are witches that I know that don't enjoy visualization at all. And what they do is more in the physical realm. They do a lot of green witchery. They do a lot of kitchen witchery, a lot of like physical tactile things. And they're so skilled at that. And I don't connect with the physical realm as much as I do the astral realm. So I guess to anybody watching this, if you're feeling a little lost or like you haven't found your path yet, you probably will find it at some point. Just know that you don't have to force yourself to do things that other witches are doing. There's so many other paths available. And I really do think that everybody has a gift. They just maybe don't know what that gift is yet. So yeah, to the gatekeepers, I can't stand it.
I do think you brought up the concept of visualization and people having difficulty doing visualization.
Mhm.
I think personally, I do think visualization is very important to manifesting spells. So, but visualization isn't just seeing it in your head. I mean, it's experiencing it. So if someone's having difficulty with the actual seeing it, but they can be in that moment that they want to manifest, then I do feel that that's visualization. So the green witch who may be working with plant spirits, may be visualizing an intention that they want to manifest, but they may not be doing it visually. They may be doing it emotionally. They may be feeling as if they've manifested whatever it is that they want to accomplish. And I still think that's visualization.
Yes, I so agree. I think there's a lot of people out there that maybe believe they can't visualize, but that's because they've been forced to visualize in a way that their brain just doesn't work. And there are so many different ways to visualize. It's actually a very, very small percentage of the population that can't do any sort of visualization. So most of the people that think they can't visualize actually can. They just haven't found the right method for them. And I do agree that visualization is huge. And if you are, one of that small percentage of the population that can't visualize, I believe you still can manifest. You just have physical representations in front of you that help, it's sympathetic magic that you can manifest that way. But I agree with you. I think visualization is such a huge component because you really have to see the outcome and see what you want to achieve with this spell. And if you can't visually see it, then write it down on a piece of paper, write a story of what that feels like in the moment when you have achieved your goals. So yeah.
And that actually brings up the point of some friends of mine who are witches, who are blind, who can't even, I mean, they've never been able to see, because they don't know what that is. That idea of the ability to visualize being in the moment, and they're successful witches. I've seen their manifestations happen. So they're not writing it, they are visualizing in a different way. So yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's so interesting to think about. Oh, wow. I wonder what their practice looks like too. Now I want to deep dive on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. One of my online friends is Paulina. I'll have to Shadow Sun is her username on YouTube. I'm not sure if that's her actual channel name, but I have known her online for years, way back when. And she's blind, but she is a practicing witch.
Mm.
So
I
yeah.
love that so much. I'm going to have to connect with her for sure. Yes. Thank you for that plug in. So
Paulina,
yeah.
if you're watching, hey.
Hello, even though I don't know you. I don't know you yet. Yeah. So I guess kind of a brief synopsis. It sounds like we both agree that anybody can be a witch. The debate is more of, how successful you can be with certain paths of witchcraft. Obviously, there's always going to be some people that are slightly better than others because they're just kind of naturally inclined towards that. But yeah, would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah. I think there is something that innate calling or pull or alignment with the practice of witchcraft that may give someone just a little more edge. It doesn't mean that someone else can't. It just means that, some of us are just like drawn to that practice. And I do think creativity, in whatever aspect that is, has a common thread through all the witches that I've known.
Yes. Yeah, and you brought up one more point that I wanted to talk about too, is that the people who are called to witchcraft are going to be the ones here listening to this video anyways, you know? So like the people that actually want to become a witch probably do have that innate calling to become a witch. I mean, like my fiance, not interested in witchcraft. They are a Buddhist. They are not interested in it whatsoever. They support me, of course, but I mean, obviously they don't have the calling. It's not of interest to them. So anybody who is interested in witchcraft probably already has the calling to become a witch in the first place. So
yeah. Unless they're drawn to it for a different reason, which again, I think each of us need to examine what our reasons are for gravitating towards the label or the name witch or witchcraft. And I think like for my husband, he practices magic, but he doesn't identify as witch.
oh, really? I didn't know that.
It's a different magical practice that he practices. So it doesn't
Yeah,
mean that his magic manifests less or better than my magic. It's just a different path to make
exactly.
that change in reality.
Well, yeah, I mean, Kabbalistic practitioners, for example, they can perform magic, but they're not witches, or most of them don't define themselves as a witch. And I know a lot of ceremonial magicians and even people that are defined as warlocks or whatever. And the label, I guess, for me, maybe doesn't matter as much now that we're discussing it this way. But yeah,
Yeah.
practitioners of magic, I don't know. So, anyways, well, did you want to add anything else to this topic? Because I feel like I was able to say all the things that I wanted to say.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe I should have had some sort of outline before we started, but whatever.
Nah, this is way funner. Thank you to everybody who watched this video. I'm going to link Cricketsong's YouTube channel down below if you haven't already checked out her channel. And I will see you in a video very soon. And I hope you all have a fantastic day. Bye.
Bye.